Thursday, May 15th. Welcome into KC Sports Tonight. Marlia Campbell here with Gabe Swartz. And Gabe, I know you did a little bit with this last night on our KCTV5 stream, but we're going to break down the Chiefs' schedule. So I should probably move the ticker accordingly. Gabe, let's just start with maybe a few highlights, what you're looking forward to most. I know that's a broad question with 18 weeks, but anything that popped out to you that we didn't already know?
It feels like it is a little more front-loaded than last year. I think that the bye week being in week 10 really kind of splits it up into
what was the last
two halves. Last year was in week 6. And then everything kind of felt backloaded with the stretch of games near Christmas in such a short period of time. But I do feel like playing the Chargers, the Eagles, the Ravens, the Lions, and the Commanders and the Bills all before your bye week really makes you feel like the front half of the schedule is tougher than the back. I think that in large part because I'm not as big of a believer or worrier about how good Bo Nix and the Denver Broncos are, and you get two of those games at the backside of the schedule. You end the season with the Raiders in Vegas in week 18, which is one of those spots where it's like that team is probably not going to be super competitive at that point, I would think.
Hopefully a starters resting kind of game, yeah.
Who knows? And then that also features your home game against the Chargers in December as well. And I think the Cowboys game there is on Thanksgiving. But I think overall my thought was if they can – they don't necessarily – I'm not expecting them to start 9-0 the way that they did last year. But I think that through the first 9 weeks, that's the portion of the schedule where they can kind of like they did last year separate themselves with key victories, because last year we saw them – get the early win against Baltimore, get the early win against Cincinnati, and kind of derail things in that regard. This schedule feels a little more front-loaded, although I think that is in large part because some of their toughest NFC games are also earlier in the season as well.
Sure. You touched a little bit on your Broncos take that I'm hearing for the first time, because I know a lot of talk is surrounding the Broncos being the contender in the AFC West to knock the Chiefs off the division. Gabe, let's go into that a little bit more. Let me pose it like this. Who do you think is the team to potentially knock the Chiefs off their throne, or who do you think will be chasing them the closest this year?
Yeah, I'm not predicting that the Chiefs aren't winning the division, but I would say that I'm always more of a believer in the talent of Justin Herbert and the competency of Jim Harbaugh as a coach than I am of Sean Payton and Bo Nix. And I know that the playoff evidence is that the Chargers aren't necessarily built for that, or at least that they've had two of the more embarrassing playoff losses in the two games that Justin Herbert's made in the playoffs. But that I don't necessarily worry about that. I think that if anything, playing in Brazil it is one of those things where it brings in an outside factor, I guess, in that matchup, where you're kind of, at this point, if you're the Chiefs, used to traveling to Los Angeles, having the home fan advantage, even though you're the road team. The building is half or more red, and playing in a familiar situation, whereas now you're going to Brazil. Who knows what the field conditions are going to look like? Who knows what the travel accommodations are going to be like? And yes, the Chiefs have not lost an international game in the Andy Reid era, so I'm not necessarily sounding the alarms, but I'm just saying that is a unknown factor that makes the Week 1 game in Brazil a little different. The counterpoint to that, of course, is that LA has the same situation to deal with on their own. But yeah, I think that the Chargers are more of a worry to me than the Broncos, although it's probably closer than I'm giving it credit for, because Denver's defense is so good, and their secondary in particular matches up really well with the Chiefs wide receivers. So we'll see.
The Bills game coming up here, I guess, is the one that, as soon as the schedule comes out, everyone's kind of grabbing their marker and circling that one. How do you feel like that rivalry, I guess, is going to continue to build in 2025? Josh Allen coming off of his NFL MVP year, but of course, the big story that has been the Chiefs being the only hurdle that he hasn't been able to overcome and to get out of the AFC.
I don't know if it's a contrarian take or if it's a unique take or if this is something that other people and other Chiefs fans are feeling. Maybe it's one of those things that will be discussed throughout the summer and maybe into the fall. But I'm in the camp of, at this point, based on the evidence we've had from the last 5 seasons, that the Bills-Chiefs regular season matchup, I probably shouldn't say this because it is airing on KCTV, but is generally overhyped in the regular season, and as such, we've seen the Bills have consistently won the regular season matchup, and then the Chiefs continue to win the postseason matchup. And so I don't know if necessarily NFL fans are burnt out from that, and maybe that's why it wasn't as high of a priority for people for the networks to put into a standalone primetime game, whereas I know that it's a 325 game and it's going to be viewed by 95% of the country, if not all of the country. But I'm in the camp where the Bills, like, when we're looking at the 17 games on the schedule last night, and Neil and I were discussing it, yeah, it's a big game. Yeah, it's reigning MVP Josh Allen and it's Mahomes, and I'm always going to be excited to watch that game. But what it comes down to is, like, we've seen, whether it's in Kansas City or whether it's in Buffalo, in January, the Chiefs just beat the Bills. And so to act as if the home field advantage or the control of the AFC is something that's going to be completely decided by it, as we maybe thought at one point last season when we were talking about, if the Chiefs beat the Bills in this spot, you can wrap up home field advantage in week 10. They'd be 3 games up on the Bills, and then they lost it, and they still ended up as the 1 seed. They still ended up hosting the AFC Championship game. So I'm downplaying the matchup because it's not 2 really good teams, and not because I don't think that it's the first and second best teams in the AFC. I still believe that. I still think that they're both better teams than the Ravens. But at this point, I think we've seen that at the end of the day, it's going to come down in January.
Yeah.
And we've got plenty of evidence. And to the Bills' credit, a lot of times you see that, like, mic'd up in the middle of the field, and it's Patrick Mahomes, and he's talking to an opposing quarterback, and he says, we'll see you guys later this year. He said it to C.J. Stroud. He said it to Lamar Jackson. He said it to Joe Burrow. He said it to Josh Allen. The one guy who does routinely set his team up in a spot where he's going to see Patrick Mahomes later in the year is Josh Allen.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
Hats off, tip of the cap to Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But I think by the basis of that, by the fact that we've gotten that playoff matchup so consistently, it just devalues the regular season matchup to
like
me.
Waiting for the real.
Yeah, exactly.
Real one to come around.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to something Neil is actually at
Yep.
right now. He called me during the show. Hello, Neil. Is at the Lowe's Hotel tonight. The Royals are doing a reunion media availability. So
Yep.
it's the 1985 World Series championship team and the 2015, of course, championship team. Both of those groups celebrating anniversary years this year. So if you're heading out to the K tomorrow, the Royals are doing a pregame ceremony for the 85 team on Friday, and then on Saturday they're doing it for the 2015 team. So, Gabe, which brings me to, obviously you and I were around for the 2015 run.
Mm-hmm.
As we're celebrating that 10-year reunion this year, I guess, what are the best memories you look back on? And I'll pose a harder question. Do you think we'll have another team that makes a big run at this? I mean, the ending in a year in 5 would be lovely because of just the symbolism, but I'll say in the next couple of years.
Yeah, we'll see. I think that this is a team right now for the Royals that certainly can contend. I think that when you look up and down the AL, there's not necessarily anyone. Yes, the Tigers have set themselves apart, but I think in general the AL is going to end up being an extremely competitive race, and as we saw last year, the AL Central was everybody in the AL Central was winning playoff series, and so Kansas City's ability to contend against Detroit and Cleveland and Minnesota, who's now won 11 straight, is probably going to determine whether they're going to get a chance at seeing the Yankees again or seeing Seattle, who's playing some pretty good ball in the AL West. But I think the Royals, yes, of course, they have like the hitting to figure out, but they're going to be in the conversation. I don't know if they're going to be able to capture necessarily the magic, but I do think that there's a similarity in terms of 2014 and 2025 or 2024 and 2025 to 2014 and 2015, because it's similar in the realm of the teams aren't dramatically different. It feels like they're kind of just running back the same formula for winning, and yet they're doing it in obviously a different way than the 2014 team did, with just athleticism and incredible base running and defense and really, really, really great bullpen work. Because this year's team, it's like every night you look out and it's a quality start. In the 2014 and 2015, it was like every night you were just hoping that the starter gave you 5 innings. Maybe that changed a little bit once Johnny Cueto was traded for. But if you could get to the 5th, 6th inning and hand the ball to the bullpen with a lead, it was over. And this year's team, the bullpen is solid, but it really doesn't feel over until there's a lead, and then Lucas Erceg and Carlos Estevez are the two that are touching the ball. Everyone else, there's still a little bit of nerves in that regard. So I'm not all the way in on them pulling off the end of year in 5 magic. But I will say I do remember being at the Lowe's Hotel last year when they were doing this for the 2014 team. Certainly cool to be around there and hear from these guys. I know Mike Moustakas was talking last year. There was Hosmer was there, Gordon was there, Moustakas was there. It's always interesting to hear what sticks out in people's memory from the runs, because everybody has a different recollection of things that stand out to them. If I'm being honest, I remember 2 games in particular of like a where were you when, the comeback against the Astros and then the Lorenzo Cain scoring from first against the Blue Jays in the ALCS. Those 2 points in the playoff run feel like the sticking points, and then of course the Alex Gordon home run in the World Series against the Mets. It's certainly cool. I can't wait to hear what Neil heard from those guys. I kind of wish that they would have split it up and not done it all the same weekend. And I could understand you want to do the 85 team with the Cardinals in town. The Mets do come to town at some point this summer. So curious about them doing it all in the same weekend, but cool nonetheless.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. You mentioned guys like Mike Moustakas retiring as a Royal later this season. I was there, was it last year, 2 years ago, when Lorenzo Cain retired as a Royal. And just a really special moment with Salvi, getting to do some stuff on the field with him. And so it's cool how much this means to the players. And, to be back here in Kansas City, even after they go on to other clubs, you're seeing a lot of them retire wearing the Royal blue. So it should be a great weekend. If you're going to the game tomorrow, the game's at 6:40. Royals are recommending you get in your seat by 5:50 for those presentations. Ooh. Yeah, early. I know. I figured it'd be like 15 minutes or something.
And that would be my argument of like, maybe let's not do it all the same weekend, but
make it a series out of it. But hey, good problem to have when you're selling.
Yeah, exactly.
Things, right? Okay, Gabe. Before we go, something I don't think you and I have ever talked about this show. Are you big on NBA?
I'm certainly following it for the Nuggets. Specifically
exactly
for Christian Brown, just because I went to high school with them. Yeah. I love watching Nikola Jokic play basketball. So tonight, elimination game certainly has my attention.
Yeah. Christian was there while
he
you were
was
there,
a year younger than I was.
Okay, gotcha.
So
I covered him at KU for that 2022 run, which was really cool. Neil and I interviewed his parents, who now you're seeing the cameras cut to his parents all the time, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But, Neil and I interviewed his parents, I think we were in Fort Worth, and then we were in Chicago, and then New Orleans. I want to say it was New Orleans. But it was cool how much that moment meant to them then. And gosh, he's one of 5 players in basketball history with 3 high school state championships at your alma mater, and then a national title and an NBA title already. But yeah, win or go home for CB tonight. He's been putting up really good numbers.
That's
too.
it's incredible to see like peek behind the curtain of like the group chats that I'm in with people, and just every single night in the playoffs, it's like, oh, he's guarding Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's probably going to win MVP. He guarded Kawhi Leonard. He guarded James Harden. He's played in playoff series and guarded Kevin Durant, LeBron James. To see a guy who was spending his Friday nights playing against the Blue Valley Wests and Blue Valley Southwests of the world, and was playing minutes on JV as a sophomore in 2016. Yeah, to go from that to a guy who's going to make $100+ million at some point with his career. It's a rapid rise, and it's incredible. It also just puts into perspective just how good NBA players are. That he, as a senior at Northwest, I think he was averaging 25 to 30 points a game, and was a ball handler. And now you see it, it's like, oh, he's a 3-and-D type wing who's an incredible slasher. But really, credit to him, his work ethic, his competitive spirit.
And to Ed Fritz.
Ed
Fritz appreciation, shout out.
Yeah, certainly so much fun to watch, though.
When you said, he played JV minutes as a sophomore, I would be fascinated to take the guys still alive in the playoffs and see how many of them were doing that, because I
very
bet
few.
It was 0. Yeah,
very few.
Maybe 1 if you count Christian. But 2, you look at the talent that's been turned out of Blue Valley Northwest. I played in an all-star game my senior year when Clay Custard and Ben Richardson and those guys were there, Vince Fritz, and then they obviously went on that ridiculous run with Loyola. Was it Loyola Chicago?
Loyola Chicago.
Loyola Chicago. So yeah, pretty cool.
And that's the thing. There's a lot of local basketball talent from around here,
big basketball state.
and that I don't necessarily know if it always gets as much credit as it should, but it's always cool to hear the Overland Park shout-outs and the Blue Valley Northwest shout-outs on the NBA broadcast nowadays.
Yeah. A lot of the for the Midwest AAU and USJN circuit, there's so many tournaments here in Kansas City. We have such good facilities, and so it makes sense that it's out of here. Plus, you're so central to go to Chicago or to go down to Dallas. So I know this is a big recruiting hub, and kudos to CB and to his family. They're awesome, and it's cool to see a guy like him have local success. And to be listening to an NBA playoff game and you hear Overland Park, Kansas, and it's like, I'm sorry, who? So CB in action tonight. That game's at 7:30. Elimination game. OKC up 3-2. The game is in Denver tonight, though, and then if it goes to a game 7, that'll be Sunday
night
at 2:30. Yeah, but for us, that'll do it on KC Sports tonight. Same time, same place tomorrow, Friday night. And one last note before we go: Savannah Bananas in town next Friday night. We're talking about all the good sports in Kansas City. Doesn't get much better than the Bananas. Okay, thanks everybody.